Hey guys, my name is Brandon and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you like what you see in here, you're more than welcome to hit the subscribe button so you stay notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's get straight on with today's video. Hey everyone and welcome back to Is That More Brandon. So in today's video I'm actually going to be doing a review to the second episode of the Traitors Series 2. So without further ado, at the beginning of the episode, obviously we had our three traitors. So we had Paul, we had Ash, and we had Harry. It's kind of like a little clique name, Hashel, Paul, Ash, Harry. But anyway, Paul, Ash and Harry were our three traitors. And we found out that the person that they had actually recruited to join their team was Miles. I wasn't surprised, it was one of the two guys. It was either going to be Miles or Andrew. Andrew because he's obviously physically strong, Miles because obviously it seems like he's a very people's person, so he was obviously going to get on with everyone. And Paul basically said it's because he has a strong personality, he's obviously quite loyal, and Miles said that he wants to be the last man standing and take all of the money. So yes, he's with the traitors at the moment, but will he stick by them, or will he do what they did in the last series where they all start going against each other at the banishment round table? Paul explained that he felt Anthony got a little bit spiky with Zach, and I think the discussions here were about who the first person was that they were obviously going to murder at midnight. So yeah, Paul basically said Anthony got a little bit weird with Zach when Zach brought up the fact that Anthony couldn't move the boat. Obviously that was brought up by somebody else, but it was Zach who kind of shared that information. And Miles said that actually that could spiral a little bit out of control, so it's like you want to kind of break up any form of drama and, you know, stop people talking to each other. You want to break up as many groups as possible to keep it as open as possible and easy to get rid of people if they have no allies and things. And Ash basically said that she felt like Sonia was laughing at people and being traitors, and I think she brought up the fact at breakfast where the first question she asked Ash was, are you a traitor? So just very straight away, not even good morning, how are you, whatever, just laughing. And Miles also said that he felt like Aubrey was watching people from a distance. Paul said, in addition to what Harry had already mentioned before, but he felt like Diane also obviously suspects Harry. Again, that could get out in terms of information, then Harry's in danger, and then, you know, Harry won't know what to do with the information. Does he stick with his traitor friends as that group of allies, or does he have enough other people that he can be on a team with? So we don't really know. And basically we found out that they would either murder Diane, Aubrey, or Sonia. So obviously Diane, just because of the fact that she is kind of already accusing Harry. Aubrey, just because he's a very observant people watcher, and, you know, he doesn't have any specific ideas as of now, or he says that he has some sort of a vague idea, but again, he's just obviously very good at the game. And then you had Sonia, who again, she was talking to a lot of people, she was kind of potentially stirring the pot a little bit, and she was like, just being almost like she was playing the game too well, that she was like just directing questions at people and directing statements and things. So yeah, it was one of those three who were going to go. And then the following morning, obviously one of them had been murdered, so only 21 people were going to go back for breakfast. So Johnny said it was quite nerve-wracking because him and Evie were the first two to go in, and Evie said that they could now relax, but they don't know who's going to come through the door. Harry briefly whispered to Meg, saying that he thinks that Zach is suspicious just purely because of what happened the previous night with the boat situation, and I think he said something like that he was going to have an early night's sleep, or he was going to have a great night's sleep or something, because obviously they all think, oh, a traitor's going to say that. Paul said that he's actually been trying to perfect his hello at breakfast time, so kind of the wave, the smile, the oh, I'm relieved to be here but I'm really sad for whoever's gone. And Molly basically said any of the ones that hadn't come into breakfast at this point, she'd be disappointed if they went. So I think Diane, Aubrey, Sonia and Zach hadn't come back to breakfast at this time. So Diane, Sonia and Zach obviously all walked through the door. They all realised that Aubrey got murdered, and he was obviously the first person to get eliminated from the game. And then we saw a little brief throwback of what happened the previous night. So Harry said nobody would suspect the four of them. Ash said they were obviously afraid of Aubrey and his alliance with the two girls, Diane and Sonia. And Diane basically said that she felt like Aubrey was very observant, and obviously it was a tactical plan to get rid of him. And I guess, yeah, she and him had that alliance, and they obviously have that alliance still. Well, her and Sonia still have that alliance, so let's see if that lasts. And then obviously that's when Claudia mentioned, so Aubrey's out, he's gone, 21 people left, and the next mission was something to do with feathers, which actually Charlotte picked up on. I think she said something about like I'm not sure exactly what was said or what was introduced, but Charlotte just repeated the word feathers, and then I think they all just kind of clicked. It's going to be something to do with feathers or birds or animals or something. And Johnny, Claire and Andrew were having a chat outside. So Johnny basically explained his game plan, make it up as you go along. Claire said that she thought Paul was a faithful, so there was no way that he could be a traitor. And Andrew is just kind of there listening in with the conversation. Obviously at this point all three of them are faithfuls, so it's just interesting to kind of now start to see which groups are kind of spreading apart, doing their own little thing. Sonia explained to some of the girls that she did a social science degree on how people act, and she was actually sitting in a group with some of the girls, including Ash, and I think Ash's introduction to the conversation was, so as well as being a traitor, what else do you do, or what else have you done? So obviously they all had a little giggle, but obviously she's not. I think it's just kind of payback from what Sonia did to Ash at breakfast. So yeah, Sonia basically says she knows how people act, or she can kind of work out how people are. And Molly basically explained that, again, she is disabled, she doesn't have a colon, and at 18 years old she basically was told she needed to have a bag for the rest of her life to kind of catch her waist. So again, very sad, I guess, story, because you're living with a life condition. But yeah, I guess it's one of those things that you'll bring into a game and could either be used to your advantage or disadvantage depending on how the game is played. Ross and Jazz were having a very quick chat. So Ross is obviously the videographer guy. Jazz, I believe, is the account manager or national regional manager of some sort. And Ross basically said sometimes he just can't help but say his piece. He told Jazz about the Zach situation, about what Zach said about, you know, having an early night. And he said, I don't think Zach is a traitor. I think he just said something that was a bit out of hand. And he basically felt like Sonia was stirring the pot because what they had discussed in the car, she obviously then brought up to light to a group, and then he had to kind of go, oh yeah, this is what was said and this is who said it, kind of thing. So yeah, Diane says that she doesn't get on with Anthony, so purely because of the first challenge. And she was talking to Harry and Paul and Jazz, so I think Jazz had moved to this conversation, so he's kind of floating around a little bit. And Harry and Paul, obviously both the traitors. Diane doesn't know this, she thinks that she's talking to nice people, and she said she basically doesn't get on with Anthony. And I think Paul basically said, well, if they've recruited someone, it's most likely to be a female, if it is Anthony, and he's most likely to have probably recruited Ash. So that's what Diane put out there. Paul and Harry are a bit like, oh god, and Paul basically says to the camera, Diane's very on it, like she's very focused, very on, and she basically said that the only woman that Anthony has been hanging around is Ash. So if it's Anthony, then it's also Ash as well as traitors. And she said she's going to continue to be suspicious, and you know, she knows that Ash and Anthony are not faithfuls, or as far as she knows. And she also said she's not sure 100% if the people she's speaking to are faithfuls, or if she could be having these friendly conversations with traitors, which actually 2 of the 4 in that conversation were. Paul said to Anthony that Anthony doesn't really chat to anyone else. Paul said to Anthony that Andrew doesn't really chat, kind of keeps himself to himself. Again, like I said, Diane said that there was a female recruit, and Paul said that Diane is now raising concerns because she's kind of, similarly to Aubrey, bringing up too much sort of gameplay or looking too much into it. And yeah, the next mission, so basically what happened is the castle was going to be split into 2 teams. So a team of 9 and then a team of the rest. So the 9 that were outside on the castle grounds had to go around, find the bird noises, mimic that noise for the rest of the people that were at the castle, and they would have to, in the castle, find the bird with the matching sound and then just match it up and give it to Claudia. So they're all kind of working out, right, who is it fair to have these people there and these people there, and basically what the catch was the people that were on the castle grounds, the 9 of them, there was a chance for them to potentially get a shield. The ones in the castle were obviously not able to do that. And I think people like Zach kind of spoke up and said, well, hang on, it's not fair for Kyra and Harry to be in that team because they've already got a shield from the previous game. And then I think Kyra basically just said the most important thing is about the money, it doesn't matter about the shields. I think a couple of the other ones were like, it doesn't really matter about that, let's just focus on the game, like the shields is not the important part. I think Andrew spoke up a little bit as well, Paul as well. And then basically the 9 people that were on the castle grounds, so we had one team which was Diane, Kyra and Miles, second team which was Anthony, Paul and Andrew, and then the third team was Harry, Molly and Jasmine. And I think this is when Zach said that the Harry and Kyra being on that team was not fair. And yeah, I think he was kind of not being attacked here, but I think, yeah, he kind of, I guess I understand his point. If they've already got a shield, they're already protected. They don't really need to be protected again. That gets to give someone else an opportunity. And also I think that someone said that maybe the stronger people should be on the castle grounds because they're going to be the ones that have to do the running around. Anyway, the rest of them were in the castle, and Andrew said to his little team, so Paul and Anthony, that they should go for the shield. So again, I don't know who actually at this point heard him say that, but basically he was like, look, one team's going to have to go for the shield, let's just do it, kind of thing. It was Jasmine and Miles at one point during the game that decided to do some of the bird noises. It was very funny. I must admit that the bird noises part of the game was really good. It was like they had to just mimic, they heard a sound for however many seconds, they had to mimic the sound, and then the team had to go and find the matching bird in the house. But yeah, some of those noises were incredible. Sonia managed to find the second one. Obviously, bless her, she can't obviously sprint through the house, but she kind of was able to find the correct one. And Paul explained to the camera that he would have gone for the money first to obviously build that pot and then gone for the shields. But the fact that Andrew kind of just led them and said, look, we'll definitely be able to do both, was obviously a win-win, and he left the decision in someone else's hands. So that then kind of took the space and the limelight away from Paul, and kind of it made Andrew be like the one that just wanted the shield, and the other team just kind of followed his lead. Harry said that he wasn't really sure how Jasmine managed to make some of the noises that she did. And Kyra basically said to her little team that they wanted to do the first and second bird noises first and then go for the shield. When they went for the shields were already taken, so they were like not sure who was going to own up, if they were going to own up. It was one of the other two teams that obviously got the 3 shields for their team. And Miles actually added here as well, where they actually confess. Yeah, Paul, Anthony and Andrew all got shields here, so that was fine. That saved them from being murdered at night time, but it didn't save them being banished from the round table. And when Claudia announced that they'd won £4,000 from the game and they guessed 5 out of 7 of the birds correctly, she said, well, look, for the people that got the shields, you can either speak up and be honest and open that you've won them, or you can just keep it to yourself. So Paul said he thinks that they should be honest. He stepped up, and his little team of 3 were like, yeah, we've all got the shields. And again, Diane at this point, she does not like Anthony. She just said, is Anthony not a team player, or is he just a traitor? So he went for that shield because he wanted to be saved, or he wants to go for that shield because he knew someone was going to come after him later. So that's why he went for that. And then Claudia left the scene, and as she was walking away, she just said, oh, I do like tension. So yeah, very funny, very entertaining. She just comes out with some interesting lines, and it's really, really quite funny. Paul explained to Sonia that it wasn't his call to go out and obviously get the shield. He basically put the blame on Andrew. It was not necessarily blame, and I think Sonia said, well, you didn't do anything wrong, you just kind of did what you had to do. And then Kyra said, with Andrew being on their team of 3, he thinks she's a traitor, and if Paul was on a different team of 3, he probably wouldn't have been confident enough to go for the shield. So kind of completely overseeing the fact that Paul is a traitor, thinking that he's not, and actually that Andrew is a traitor. And Johnny said that there's a lot of people at the round table that are going to take it personally. And Miles basically said to camera that he thought being a traitor was a lot easier than being a faithful, because you get to see everything, you get to know who's where and that sort of thing, but actually it's more difficult because yes, you're in control, but that control can be taken away from you very, very quickly. Again, Diane was having a chat with Ross and Charlotte, saying Anthony is now keeping himself to himself. He was very loud and bubbly and happy and whatever before, and his personality has changed. Ross explained that he felt like Sonia was stirring the pot, and I think it was Charlotte saying that Anthony has got a different personality since day one. He's acting a lot different. So the 3 of them kind of were all in agreement that Anthony had a change of personality. And then Diane basically explained to Ross that he needs to be careful running after people that others like in the game, otherwise he'll be challenged. And I think because at this point Ross said that he was going to go for Sonia because he didn't really trust her, Diane said, just look, be careful, because if you go after her, there's going to be people that come after you. So at this point, Ross was kind of like, do I listen to Diane? Is she a faithful? Is she trying to actually help me? Is she someone bad? Do I want to be seen like I'm in an alliance with Diane, because then they'll take both of us out? So it's one of those weird situations. So Ross was obviously in a bit of a sticky situation there, and I think he still went with his gut of thinking it was Sonia. And then at the round table discussion, Claudia basically said they had 5 minutes to have a discussion. Diane straight away decided to start the round table discussion. She said, I'm going to go first. I'm just going to put my opinion out there, and I'm just going to go out straight away. And she said in that initial game, when they had to line up in a line, She obviously didn't want to be on either of the two ends. She tried to get into the middle, and Anthony didn't move. So he kind of didn't push her out of the way, but just didn't let her go where she wanted to go. And she just felt like that he was in the game for himself. Charlotte added that she also felt like Anthony had changed from when they were on the train at the beginning to obviously them being in the game. And I think Anthony here basically stuck up for himself and said, well, obviously I'm going to be defensive, because I think at this point they also said that he was a bit defensive, which shows traitory vibes. And he said, well, actually, no, if you're being defensive, you're not just going to go, oh yeah, it was me, like, you know, I'm innocent, but, you know, just call me whatever you want. I think he just said, you're going to be defensive if you know you're right, and if you're going to stick up for yourself, you're going to do it in a way that you know you are in the right. And I think Zach at this point also jumped in and said, yeah, Anthony, I don't think you give traitor vibes. So, you know, sometimes people are going off, you know, someone says something and everyone just copies it, but actually it's just an instinct, it's not necessarily fact. So yeah, that was that little situation with Diane, Anthony, and, you know, Charlotte getting involved there briefly, and also Zach getting involved. Kyra then jumped in and said the fact that Andrew and his little team of 3 wanted to go for the shields, that's obviously not great team play. And she said she also overheard that team discuss that they wanted to go for the shields first rather than actually playing the game and earning the money. Paul then jumped in and said he actually agreed with Andrew's choice here. And I think Andrew basically said, well, you know, people hadn't actually made a decision, and, you know, it was that thing of they'd already won some money by this point, so you kind of were allowed to move on. And Kyra also said that she wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have gone straight for the shield. She would have done the team play thing first. And again, that's when Zach jumped in again and said, well, actually, you're quite hypocritical, because in that first game with the logs, you went straight for the shield. And Kyra's rebound was actually, well, I can't swim, so the 2 in the river were just completely out of bounds for me. The only one I could go for was the one on shore. So, yeah, that was an intense kind of weird conversation as well. And then again, Zach was brought up again. So at this point, Zach is kind of the main target, or he's trying to get involved in too many different situations. Is that a good thing for him that he's now building a profile for himself? Or is it a bad thing that, you know, he's in too many different conversations and there's too much going on with him? Or actually it's a bit confusing to actually keep him in the game, because then you don't know what to believe. And then actually Harry, obviously one of the traitors, decided, you know what, I'm going to jump in as well. So he basically said that Zach actually did change when the blindfold came off. And he kind of seemed like he was a bit nervous or a bit different or a bit shaky. And actually when Harry was kind of speaking, he also sounded quite nervous as well. So he was kind of nervously explaining why Zach felt like traitor vibes. But Zach also was kind of giggling, being like, well, hang on, that doesn't show I'm a traitor. So they were both kind of having a little giggle, both kind of being a bit weird or nervous. Obviously Harry's a traitor, Zach isn't, but they both kind of came across quite traitory there. Ross also stepped up and said again with the Zach situation, he said that I would sleep well tonight. Obviously not everyone knew that until now. And he basically said that the conversation in the car, Sonia then brought that up later on with other people, and he felt like that she was just kind of stirring the pot. And he said, you know, if Sonia is innocent, I'm genuinely really sorry. And I think that's when Johnny stepped in and said, well, actually, if Sonia is innocent and she's not a traitor, then I'm going to have my eyes on you, Ross. So it's kind of a little bit of like, oh, well, if she is a faithful, nothing to worry about Ross. But if she's a traitor, nothing to worry about Ross. But if she's a faithful, then Johnny's going to start going after Ross. Not accusing him of being a traitor, but just going to keep his eye on him just in case something else a bit weird comes up. Why would you throw a name in if you know they're innocent if you're not innocent yourself? Like, so it's just one of those weird mind games. But everyone just loads of weird conversations going on there. And then Sonia basically stepped up and said, well, actually, you guys, if you do vote for me, you are basically wasting your vote. So she was basically telling them, look, I do go on truth, I do tell the truth, and, you know, whatever's happened has happened, but if you vote for me, you're wasting your vote. So I guess some of the names here that were kind of being thrown around, you had Anthony, you had Sonia, you had Zach, and you had Ross. So Anthony, purely because of his interaction with Diane and Charlotte. Sonia, because I guess she was maybe playing the game a little bit too much, sharing information from private chats when actually she could have just left it and let it come out naturally itself. Zach, because of what he said in terms of, oh, I'm going to have a great night's sleep, like he knows he's not going. Is it because he's a traitor, or is it just because he knew he was good in that challenge? And then Ross, again, because he nominated Sonia, or because he thought Sonia was a name that he picked out of a hat as having facts and evidence. If he's wrong, people are going to then start looking at him going, well, hang on, why did you put her name in there? If you are innocent, why would you put someone else innocent in the firing line? In the end, it came down to the votes. So Zach only got 1 vote, Ross only got 1 vote, Diane got 2 votes, Anthony got 2 votes, and with 15 votes out of the 21, Sonia was eliminated from the game. And she basically did say to everyone, look, this is based on truth. I have an opinion. I have my secret to reveal. I am a faithful. And as soon as she said that, Diane kind of cheered, as if like, yes, I knew she was a faithful, but it did come across as if like, yes, I got her out, but is that because potentially she could have been a traitor? Maybe she was excited, or it was nervous energy or whatever. But also, she was supposedly in an alliance with Aubrey and Sonia, so now she technically doesn't have anyone. Obviously the older ones have now been kind of knocked out, 2 out of 22 so far, so there are 20 people left. So yeah, that's kind of was brought up to her later on. I think it was Charlotte that kind of said, well, you know, the fact that you were cheering that she's gone, it doesn't really help your case, because you've already started making, not enemies, but disagreements with people in the house, like Anthony, for example, and, you know, there's a few other people that maybe are having their eye on you, like Paul and Harry. So yeah, you just got to kind of be careful and don't cheer at something like that. Tracy said that it was sad that Sonia went. Ross basically said to Ash that he's going on facts, and, you know, sometimes you get things wrong, so clearly it wasn't a fact of what she of the fact that she was giving off traitor vibes. Yes, it was a fact that she spilled information, but just in a generic conversation kind of way, not in any sort of malicious way. And he basically said he's going to keep his eye on Johnny. So I think Johnny and Ross are going to keep their eyes on each other, just purely because Johnny doesn't like the fact Ross put Sonia in the firing line, and I guess Ross doesn't like the fact that Johnny was coming after him for just having an opinion. Harry was whispering to Claire, saying communication is key. So they're walking down the corridor and he said, look, I think we just obviously need to communicate more better with each other. And Diane basically said everyone got it so wrong. She didn't think people would have, she didn't think, and Sonia didn't think that people were going to vote for her. So that's just why she was the way that she was, being funny, being giggly, being, you know, funny and whatever. And Zach said to Andrew that he felt like Diane and Paul are mother and son. So I get it, there's a bit of resemblance between them. I don't think they are related, but imagine if that then comes out later on that actually mother and son are both in the game together. One's a traitor, one's a faithful. Like, are they going to be honest with each other? Are they going to maybe have like a secret alliance with each other? Because yeah, Paul and Diane were in the same room having that conversation, and she was having that intense chat with him, with Harry and Jazz, I think, sitting there as well. So maybe they are mother and son. Like from the last season, we had boyfriend and girlfriend. That wasn't revealed until 5, 6, 7 episodes down the line. So we don't know. Diane and Paul, both redheads. So potentially, actually that's quite a good observation from Zach there, but we really don't know. And then when obviously the 4 traitors came together to discuss who the person was they were obviously going to murder, they basically all said, well, you know, I haven't really heard anyone's names be mentioned. And Harry said, well, actually, Ash, I've actually heard your name mentioned a few times. Just people kind of bringing her name into conversations, and yeah, I guess there was kind of a, like, Ash had to just realise, well, if people are starting to come after me from the faithfuls, the traitors aren't going to want me as a traitor, because they're going to know that I'm a target. So if they come after her, they'll then come after the rest of them. Or is it a way for the rest of the boys to just go, actually, let's just get Ash out? They said that Kyra had a big voice and a big influence, and I think this is where Paul jumped in and said, well, actually, yes, she does have a big voice and she does talk, but do people actually listen to what she says? They said maybe they should vote someone out random, someone like Johnny, who's not going to have any suspicions or, you know, enemies or anything, and people will be like, well, hang on, who voted for them? And again, I think Harry said here, well, actually, Ross did say that he was going to keep his eye on Johnny, so then it would look like it was Ross that was a traitor, so put him in the spotlight. And Miles also added, maybe they should get rid of Meg, because on the round table, only 2 people voted for Diane, Anthony and Meg. So if they get rid of Meg, that will be unexpected, and then people will be like, oh, hang on, maybe Diane got rid of Meg from the game. So at the end of the episode, we found out that they were either going to murder Johnny, purely because of the fact of it being random, put the blame on Ross, Meg, because she was only one of 2 that voted for Diane at the round table, so then it'll put Diane in the spotlight, or Kyra, because she's loud, but how many people actually listen to her, or is it just kind of, she's just sharing lots of information and it's just kind of going over people's heads? And right at the end, Harry said, we are causing chaos by murdering this person. So at this point, I don't know who they've murdered, Johnny, Meg or Kyra. I think all 3 of them are quite good players. I think Meg is obviously quite quiet, Kyra is obviously quite loud. They're both on very different sides of the game. Johnny is not quiet, he's just very observant, similarly to Aubrey even. So I don't know, are they going to get rid of him because he's, again, another observer, put Russ in the spotlight? Get rid of Meg, put Diane in the spotlight, or get rid of Kyra just because she talks a lot? So we'll see. I don't know what to expect, but if you did enjoy my review, don't forget to like, comment, chat and subscribe, Let me know what your thoughts are on the Traitors so far. There have been 9 episodes out. I've only watched the 2, so yeah, don't reveal any spoilers or anything from episodes 3 onwards, but just let me know down below, who do you like so far, who do you not like, what sort of gameplay would you play? And until my next review, thank you for watching, and yeah, until then, thank you for watching, and goodbye.